Please don't call footage directed by my hero Stanley Kubrick bullshit. Thank you.
Okay. Well, it was good. It was a good film.
Welcome to the Grey Pill Podcast.
When can we get our hands on the book that they like, their Bible, like their creator of all book? Like, where did these rules come from?
It's under the Vatican. I'm sure.
The truth unveiled, exploring the depths.
He was the intellectual serpent that was trying to educate and empower and free the people, give them the technology so that one day they could become their own gods.
Beyond what is retail conspiracies.
His family ended up winning less of the wars and writing less of the history books, and here we are.
History is written by the victors.
Esoteric knowledge so enthralling.
Jed pillar, which represent Ptah's creativity, power, and stability. Huh. The Jed, like Jedi. Oh, dude.
Exactly.
Open up your mind, let's dive into the sprawling.
Osiris, his name originating from that word Orion and Sirius.
Yeah.
Think about that.
That's the unification name.
Oh, Sirius. Orion. Oh, man. That I knew it stemmed from Sirius.
Yeah.
I just blew my own mind.
Welcome to the Grey Pill Podcast. The truth unveiled, exploring the depths. Beyond what is retail conspiracies. Esoteric knowledge so enthralling. Open up your mind, let's dive into the sprawling. Oh yeah. Grey Pill awaken, question what you know. Peeling back the layers, let your curiosity grow. Uncover hidden realities, break the mold. Come take the journey, let your mind unfold.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Grey Pill Podcast. I'm your boy Jules, here with my brother Adrian West. We're doing episode 4 of Pantheon Project, our Elohim etymology, evening Elohim etymology, since we've been doing this at night lately. Part 2 on Enki, guys. So this is going to be an exciting episode. I appreciate you sitting down with me, man.
It's mutual. There's a lot of fun things to talk about.
Hell yeah, dude. And we have a lot in store. We have a lot to unpack. So let's go ahead and get started. Enki, also known as Ea or Nudamud. We talked about that. Enki meaning basically creator prince or lord of the earth. And Ea, divine being. And that later translated to
Lord of the Waters.
Lord of the Abzu, the birthplace of gold, the first mining operation. And Nudamud, meaning the artful fashioner. So this is from when he brought the 50 heroes that we had talked about and fashioned the earth.
That's right.
And we can post a list of what heroes are named. I don't know if I have all 50 of them named, but I do have them in alphabetical order. So that's cool.
It's the OCD brain kicking in.
Dude, super OCD. I guess we can pick up where we left off last time, but we kind of have to cover a lot.
Just to get to the new starting point.
Yeah, just to get to this new chapter on Earth. Enki comes to Earth with his 50 heroes, and Alalu's there. Long story short, Anu came down for the first time to come to Earth, and him and Alalu had a wrestling match, another like semi-gay, naked wrestling match. And it's written that Alalu bites Anu's penis off, or his genitalia, and swallows it. And so he's banished to Lamu or Mars. And Anzu goes with him because he's his pilot as a royal guard and a prince. He voluntarily goes with Alalu to Mars. And by this point, Enlil is already on Earth as well, right?
Yes.
But their sister Ninmah, she's not there yet.
Correct.
She stops at Mars on the way there. Maybe I think she may know that Anzu's there, and him and Alalu are both dead. Alalu's he's been dead way longer than Anzu, I'm pretty sure. So she brings Anzu back with the elixir of life, and he vows to stay there until he dies and guard Alalu's tomb, the face on Mars. That's shown in the Ancient Alien shows and online. That people may think is fake and gay, but it's uncanny to me because I saw that picture of the face on Mars way before I learned about whose tomb it may have been. She's also known as Ninti, or the Lady of Life, but Ninmah means exalted lady. And she's later known as Ninhersag, and we'll do a whole episode on her. It may even be a couple parts because she has a large role to play in the story, man.
Ninmah comes to Earth in the 22nd Shar with 29 medics. This is 3 Shars after the revolts began. So they'd gotten word about the toil, the labor, the complaints in the mines, and how these heroes were on the Earth for so long and doing all this work with no women. So the medics, maybe medic was a cover title, but essentially they wanted to bring some female entertainment / professional medicine woman to Earth to balance things out.
She had a different mother as well.
Yep. So that's why she's the half sister of Enlil, but she is the senior most daughter of Anu. Yeah. Well, wouldn't Ninmah's mother be a concubine if it's not Antu? Yeah.
Yes.
So that's the other thing. A lot of these concubines
aren't named
in history. Yeah, they're parenting these legendary gods and goddesses, but we don't even know their names.
Right. One thing that I wanted to say, I'm pretty sure Sodom and Gomorrah were named Larsa and Lagash in Sumer. And also when I asked about Enki being the Lord from it's only because he's referred to as Lord Enki. He's the first person that I see other than Enlil be referred to as Lord. Yeah, so that's the only reason I asked. I know he's the serpent in the garden.
Yeah, and the word Lord is one of those words that has multiple meanings in ancient texts. He was the Lord of the Abzu because he presided over that region of land. So Lord meant you own this land, kind of like it does today. It could also mean a holy ruler, like a deity. And it was also a term used for planets, specifically Planet X Nibiru, when they said that the Lord is returning.
Okay. All right. So we're also going to get into the creation story on this episode and the origin story of Adam or Adamu, right?
Absolutely.
As well as Adapa, who I guess is more of the biblical Adam.
In many ways, but not all the ways, as we shall soon unpack.
Do you think both stories are incorporated in the Bible? Kind of a little bit from each story, maybe?
Yo, check this out.
Yeah, dude.
So you know how humans' chromosome pairs are different than our previous evolutionary hominids because one of them was fused, or like 2 pairs were fused. So we should have like the hominids before us have 24 pairs of chromosomes.
Right.
Humans, Homo sapiens have 23 because they think the final pair was fused into one. What if they fused the 2 Adam stories into one in Genesis?
the generation of Isis, the Gen Isis.
Yes.
Right. It seems that the Sumerian stories are just I wouldn't say translated, but kind of what I said mixed into the Bible.
Respectfully, the Bible is a remix of a remix.
Yeah.
So all these ancient Sumerian tablets, chronicles, tales, and stories, to our knowledge, from what has been discovered on this planet, they're the oldest. And
Correct.
then when you unpack them together, the Bible is telling a lot of the same stories and revealing the same information, but the names have evolved. The names of the cities have changed.
The etymology.
So, some things become allegorical, and then at times there's an agenda. And certain historical deities are painted in a different light than their true colors from back in the day. So it's important to be well-read, well-researched, and look at all the angles and all the possibilities.
Yeah, man. That's why I like reading all these different stories with the same characters in them. Just fascinating to me how much is left out almost.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
We're not told the full story at all.
Maybe that's part of the beauty of it, is to leave the mystery for the humans to unveil or discover themselves through effort.
You have a way with words, brother.
Only after
this is Ninmah?
Yes.
Okay.
One depiction.
Right. I haven't seen this depiction. Is this a Sumerian carving?
Yeah.
Are those snakes in her hands?
Yeah. Ninmah / Ninhursag, entwined symbol of her DNA mixing experiments to fashion workers.
So they are portrayed as snakes.
Yeah.
So that's why we have the caduceus,
which
the two snakes entwining on every single hospital, every single ambulance. I mean, it's the symbol for medicine, or health, really, life in a way.
Yeah.
The serpent energy, as some people refer to it. Is that in any way sexual energy as well?
Oh,
I know with the Kundalini and all that stuff. Yeah. I've kind of looked into that. Yeah, this serpent symbology is very, you see it a lot, and a lot with Enki, right? And that comes from his mother being a reptilian from Orion.
Yeah, well, exactly. The ability to produce offspring without a male sperm. So we're talking about parthenogenesis. And that's what I was going to say. It's interesting with Ninmah and all the snake imagery, because she's allegedly from Nibiru, which is part of the Sirius system. And their imagery is more aligned with the wolf or the eagle. But perhaps, I have two theories here. Perhaps it's because she was working directly with Enki as part of this DNA project, Project Adam. So she took on some of that symbolism. Like, aren't those potentially fins on her feet? Like she's hanging out with the Lord of the Water. What kind of feet are those?
She has a fish suit on, bro.
Fish goddess.
Oh man!
So, because she's in partnership and collaboration with Enki, or
the OG Undine, man, like the original Siren in a way.
Correct.
Shit, man. I didn't even notice that. I thought it was just a dress or something.
The Anunnaki sandal style.
Yeah.
Another theory is, and I have no way to prove this, but we believe her mother is one
That's
of
the best part about it, dude.
concubines. Yeah. We don't know if that concubine is from Nibiru or Orion. So what if her mother is from the same system as Enki, and that's why she has all this snake or dragon or medical symbolism?
I didn't even think about that, because her and Enki had Ningishzidda. That was their child together. She had one child with both of her brothers.
And he was the special one.
He was right next to his father, creating
intellectually and versed in the genetic arts, in the healing.
He's the only one who Enki trusted with the ability to create.
I'm going to double down on that theory then. Ninmah's mother is a concubine of Anu from Orion. He probably picked her up like right after the wedding ceremony. Like, you know what I'm saying?
So is she an egg birth as well? Possibly.
I'm going to have to consult the professor at Benson on that.
Yeah, I'm going to look into who her mother was. Her child with Enlil was Ninurta.
Yes.
And Ninurta was born on Nibiru.
Yes.
Now, Ningishzidda was not born on Nibiru. He was born on Earth.
Correct.
Marduk was Enki's oldest, who he had with his wife, Damkina. His supremacy is basically taken from him because his father's is taken from him.
Yes.
And Marduk is stationed on Mars.
Right.
Him and the 300 Ajiji.
Correct.
And guys, these are later on the fallen angels. So stay tuned. The best is yet to come. Literally.
Literally.
Because they just start fucking everybody and everything.
Welcome to history, folks.
Yeah, guys. Welcome to Elohim Etymology.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, man.
Sometimes explicit.
It's going to be fun. Yeah.
The explicit Elohim. Earth is popping off by this point, right? It's like there's this situation developing on Mars. There's this contention with who's supposed to rule, for how long and when. And the Enkyites, specifically Enki and Marduk, just can't seem to get any good luck. And some of the earlier decisions, like where Enki would be stationed in relation to Enlil, it was random chance. Like they would draw lots. Like today you would pick straws, right? It's like some of those decisions, if there was a completely neutral decision being made and Anu didn't want to show favoritism, they would draw lots. And then later on, when it came time to decide like who's next in line, it seemed to get a little more personal and a little more, well,
you're right,
vindictive, let's say, because they were supposed to rule for entire zodiacal cycles.
Yes.
But in the tablets, there's this discrepancy over like, well, that constellation isn't completely 30 degrees in yet, so it's going to be a few more years, Marduk. And then he just started wars. Long story short, but like,
well, he started trying to. He killed his baby brother and then tried to kill his other brothers, and I mean, it's probably not a good idea.
Yeah, because he wasn't voted captain of the football team.
He was banished multiple times and forgiven, but Enlil was also banished when he raped his wife. Well, before she was his wife, but
yeah,
I found that interesting because I feel like in recent times those two may align with each other.
There was some cool term that the judges used to bring Enlil back, like the 7 who judge like executed the rite of something to forgive him, so to speak.
To bring him back, I think he had to atone for his sin by marrying Ninlil. And so the only kids that they had whenever Ninmah came to Earth was Ninurta, who I believe came with her. But Marduk was on Mars.
Right.
And so around this time, they have other children. Enlil has Nanarsin and Ishkur, and Enki has Nergal, Gibel, Ninagal, Ningishzidda, and then with a concubine named Dutur, he has Dumuzi.
Right.
And we'll have an episode on all of these deities. So, but we're only right now going to focus on Ningishzidda, Ninmah, Enlil, Enki, and Marduk.
Just so I don't forget.
Yeah.
It was called the Prerogative of Mercy.
Prerogative of Mercy.
Yeah.
That was the decree.
Okay. To like allow Enlil to get out of it by marrying Sud. So it'd be like a presidential pardon in today's terms.
Right. Basically, the Ajiji rebel. And I think there's 600 on Earth at this time, Anunnaki, and 300 on Mars.
Correct.
The ones that came to Earth were called the Anunnaki. The ones who went to Mars were called the Ajiji.
Right.
And so were the Ajiji coming down to Earth to mine gold and then going back to Mars with it? Because there wasn't any gold on Mars, right?
Well, they don't write about it a ton, but Mars was a way station. It was a leapfrog point. They used Mars and the moon to build stations before they would ultimately travel off to Nibiru.
Yeah, because Marduk, when him and Enki went to the moon, he found it to be inhabitable. There's probably already civilizations on the moon. And that we may have went to the moon, but that footage is bullshit. There is no footage of other planets, in my opinion.
Hey, please don't call footage directed by my hero Stanley Kubrick bullshit. Thank you.
Okay. Well, it was good. It was a good film. Let's say that. It was good,
bro.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was. But the fact that they were saying, it's not real. I said, I think there's already beings on the moon, civilizations, perhaps. And we'll get into that with Nanarsin and Ningal. So the Ajiji revolted because they were being put to work on Mars. When the gold was taken up there, they were made to...
Similar source reasons as before, as the Earth revolters, as a combination, work and loneliness. No female companionship.
There were no female companions. You're right. And this goes to them later taking Earth women for themselves.
The daughters of man.
Yeah.
And before we go on, it's interesting to point out the numbers that are listed in those reports. 600 on Earth, 300 on Mars. So, if the numbers were embellished for the sake of writing, that shows how important numerology was to the writers. If the numbers are spot on accurate, that shows how important the numbers were to the Anunnaki themselves, because we're already starting to see hints of the 369 patterns, right?
The manifestation pattern. Yeah. And those numbers are very important. Like you said, they were lonely and overworked, underpaid. And so Ninmah, Enki, and Ningishzidda decided they wanted to create a primitive worker.
Yes.
Now, Enlil did not like this. He was not down with this. He had a problem with it. He said, we're not here to be creators or to play the creator of all, just to mine gold.
Exactly. I recall him saying something just like that, which is interesting because that shows they have a spiritual compass or some sort of moral foundation. Like, they're allowed to explore science, but they're not allowed to tinker with genetics too much, because
right,
it's, for someone who ultimately like uses the Lulus and then destroys the Lulus, it's almost like he was too conservative at first, but then liberal enough in a murderous type of way.
Great analogy, man.
Yeah.
We can use those analogies more because they do line up with this day and age.
When can we get our hands on the book that they like, their Bible, like their creator of all book? Like, where did these rules come from?
It's under the Vatican. I'm sure. The first creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Creatures from the Abzu.
Yes.
And they hold them in cages, basically. All right, guys. I'm about to describe a lot of hybrid creations. I don't know what cryptids they could align with besides the obvious Sasquatch. I think 4 or 5 Sasquatches, different types.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah, these were the original cryptids. The original creeping things, so to say, as mentioned in the Bible.
Would you even say monsters?
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Abominations, bro.
Yeah.
So the first creatures were from the Abzu, the underworld, or I believe the hollow earth. They walk on 2 legs. They use 4 legs as arms, and they have hands. Anunnaki hands. They eat plants and drink water. Their body is covered in shaggy hair, and their head hair is like a lion's. There's a couple guys on YouTube that talk about like starseed races and stuff that I've kind of looked at. There's a race called the Anuhazi, or the cat people, the Lyrans, and there's theories that they may have been on Earth maybe long before the Anunnaki, or maybe even at the same time, bro.
I've heard far out things like that. Yeah. There's parts of Pantheon 1, like entire chapters that I cut out that Benson wrote about things like that, about the hominid in the universe, the prototypical hominid, all originating from like single-celled organisms, but as they branched out, they went through evolution through various different animal forms. So like the cat species evolved somewhere else, or in the Lyra constellation, hypothetically.
Right.
So yeah, it's definitely not the first time I'm hearing this stuff, and it makes me think of Animorphs a lot.
Because head hair like a lion's, that could be some type of Sasquatch, the OG Bigfoot.
That would be a badass creature. I'm imagining like that
would be terrifying. Yeah, but it would be breathtaking at the same time. I would.
A chimpanzee or gorilla body with a lion head. Is that...
Bro, I know, right? Like, think about it. Maybe like a lion being.
With that Sasquatch sass. Like, that's it.
Oh man. Yeah, no, he's that guy, you know?
Yeah.
And Enlil is like, I've never seen this creature in Eden before. Eden being his established territory at the time. He calls them creatures. And Ninmah gets mad and goes, they're not creatures, they're beings. Mm-hmm. So they're held in the house of life. which I think is her hospital, so to say.
Yes, I'd say her medical facility.
And they could not speak, so they grunted and snorted.
Sounds like a party.
It sounds like a party, dude. Sounds like something.
I'm thinking of just failed ape experiments. Like it seemed like they had somewhat of a free rein or a leash to tinker with the genetics of existing animals on the planet that they discovered. But then whenever they found the hominid, it got a little more serious, because there's clearly something special about the hominid, which evolved from the simian species millions of years back. I'm thinking just like a large gorilla or chimp that's been attempted to be mixed with something else, like a lion that's just like not able to articulate any notable sounds or coherent noises.
So they spliced this DNA, I believe. This was the first experiment. And this next being had 4 parts of one kind and hind parts of another. I mean, centaur. I don't know if horses existed then, but something similar to that. Maybe a satyr.
I want to say horses existed. I was just listening to The Secret Teachings of All the Ages, and they were going into the Plato accounts of Atlantis, and they said Atlantis was the first civilization on Earth to domesticate horses.
Wow.
So
they may have already existed.
So now we
unicorns and shit, bro.
Unicorns. Pegasus
and unicorns. Yeah, dude. But they were said to be too odd and monstrous. Ninmah was saying this. So she goes from saying it's not a creature, it's a being, to being like, these creatures are ugly as shit. And so they mix, I believe, Anunnaki semen with these beings, and they create another hybrid. This one is shaggy with hair all over, 4 parts of an earth creature, hind parts more like Anunnaki. So what does that mean?
I have 2 ideas. One is like another just messed up experiment with short earthling human arms and then long giant Anunnaki legs. Or have you read that the Anunnaki had 6 fingers and toes?
Yeah. That's why the Nephilim had their 6 fingers. The 6.
So it could be just something simple like this experiment has 5 fingers but 6 toes on each foot. The 4 parts of this, the hind parts of us.
So the taller that this being grew, the less like them he was. And he only grunted. Also, he couldn't hold tools. This was very important, apparently, to be able to hold tools. And if you can't hold a tool, then I guess you're deemed useless. This next hybrid, it says they mix with the essence of Nibiru. So this being was more in their likeness and could hold tools. He was appealing by looks, but the senses of this being were deficient. Could not hear. The eyesight was faltered. I mean, dude, this poor creature.
I know, man.
And so this was another failed experiment. Now we have 1, 2, 3 failed experiments off of this one creature found in the Abzu. And by this point, Enlil is like pissed. He's like, how many more hybrids are y'all going to create? Because you're not thinking about this, man. They're setting all these creatures free, I'm thinking. Out of Eden.
Yeah.
into the wild. I don't think they would kill them. It has their essence in some way.
Yeah. But could they procreate out in the wild or evolve to be able to?
Even Adamu couldn't procreate, right?
Right.
Ninmah mixes, and this is like Ninmah and Ningishzidda doing the work, and Enki's kind of giving them instructions.
That's how I read it too. I feel like Enki has a mastery over all of these various subjects and sciences, but he seems to be the one to like hold the plans or put the plans up on the display screen and just monitor, observe, oversee, while his counterparts are the operators in a lot of cases. That's what bosses do. And when you're the goat of the gods, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, he was the only one doing this. And if he didn't do this, we may not even be alive today. If they didn't go through all these trials and tribulations of creating these different hybrids.
Exactly.
You can call them hybrids. You can call them being. You could call them cryptids.
Oh, yeah.
So next, Ninmah mixes the clay of Earth with the DNA from the last hybrid, who was more of a Sasquatch type being, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this last one was more handsome. It could hold tools. It couldn't hear or see. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not really worth anything if it could hold tools, but it can't see. She mixes the clay of the earth with this other being, and the results are as follows. The first one, a being with paralyzed feet. The second, a being whose semen was dripping. The third, a being with trembling hands. The fourth, a being with a malfunctioning liver. A fifth one, a being with hands too short to reach its mouth. And another one, the sixth one, there you go with 6. I'm sure there may be more. But a being whose lungs were unsuited for breathing. I mean, dude, if these are cryptids, could these things have evolved? Would these ailments that they have been cured through evolution? Are they setting these creations free? I don't know if they killed them. Maybe some of them. There's no way they're keeping them all in cages.
I wouldn't think so.
I mean, who bought the cages? So now we're getting into the last one before Adamu, which they mix Anunnaki blood with, I guess, the clay of the earth, Nibiru essence, and Anunnaki semen. And they splice it all together, and they get a male who is the image of perfection. His limbs were strong, but he couldn't speak or understand speech. Grunted and snorted. It doesn't say he was covered in hair.
I think it's the earliest Homo sapiens sapien. Because it's so early in time compared to us, the fact that it doesn't mention covered in hair makes me think it had just an excess of Anunnaki DNA in it from Ninmah or the male sperm provider, because other than their hair and their like the hair on their head and the beards on their face, they're not depicted with a lot of hair.
So after this last failed experiment, Ninmah gave birth to Adamu and Tiamat, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I read an excerpt from Pantheon Book 2?
Dude, yes.
So this is the next installment of the book series, which goes in depth into the creation of Adam and Eve. And Project Adam was the headquarters for this experiment was also called Bitchute. So Enki's suggestion was hotly debated by the Bitchute team. As Ninmah put it, the odds that a normal being or monster would result were 50-50. Just who would be the Anunnaki woman to take such a risk? The selfless Enki, since he didn't want to endanger anyone else's life, offered his own wife, Ninki. But Ninmah, having thought the matter over, volunteered herself instead. Quote, "The admixtures by me were made," she said. "Reward and endangerment should be mine. I shall be the one Anunnaki womb to provide for, good or evil, fate to face." Enki impassionately embraced his stepsister as a tribute to her sacrificial gesture. So Ninmah seems to be the mother of mankind and volunteered to go through the physical labor.
I thought that Ninki may have given birth to Tiamat, and Ninmah gave birth to Adamu.
Ninki did deliver the first Eve.
And here we go again with Enlil saying, "For acting as creators, I opposed," almost like he didn't want us to be created in a way. If you think of it like that. And we kind of went off track a little bit on this episode. We dove more into the Lost Book of Enki than pantheons per se. But, I mean, this is a second episode on Enki. What other creation stories line up with this in other cultures? Because I know we talked about him being Ptah.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about him being Poseidon and Neptune. Well, we had already talked about Odin a few episodes back, as well as Dagon and Prometheus.
Yep.
And Prometheus is the same as Lucifer, in my opinion, because Lucifer, the light bearer, and Prometheus gifted us light or fire.
Yeah.
A lot of people that say Satan and Lucifer are the same deity, I don't think that's correct. Satan or Sataniel or Samael aligns with Semyaza completely. Like there's no other person. Yeah, just him. But the Lucifer deity, would that align with Enki? If you're not looking at it as Venus, the morning star, and you're looking at it as the adversary from the Bible.
Yeah.
Or the being that these elites worship, which they worship many different deities. But people mainly focus on Satan or Lucifer, which, like I said, are two completely different deities, two completely different meanings, not really a name for a deity, right? Lucifer being the light bearer and Satan being the adversary. So it's like a role or a title.
Exactly. I struggle with the term Lucifer deity, but I understand what you're trying to say.
I think people have made it into an egregore of some sort. They've kind of created these deities in another realm or by using mass consciousness.
Yeah, so I think in the universe, there's plenty of dark matter to support the idea of light and dark. And I think evil does exist, but I think humans would create evil out of thin air to justify their own imperfections or bad decisions.
Yeah.
So I
think you're right.
That concept. As far as the biblical stories, my least favorite names are Lucifer because it does mean light bearer, which is
right.
To illuminate mankind and bring enlightenment to them. And Satan annoys me because I believe it was originally from the Egyptian deity Set, and it just got misconstrued over time. So I always, when I'm referring to it, I just call it the serpent. People know what the serpent in the Bible is, and they can consider it the devil if they want to. But once you really dig into it, you'll realize that the serpent / Enki wasn't an evil serpent. He wasn't the venomous cobra that is trying to kill you. He was the intellectual serpent that was trying to educate and empower and free the people, give them the technology so that one day they could become their own gods. And but his family ended up winning less of the wars and writing less of the history books, and here we are.
History is written by the victors, by the jocks, man.
Yeah, meathead.
Yeah, straight up.
It's impossible to have a episode or a group of episodes on Enki without including almost every generation of the Anunnaki, because he's there from the beginning to the end.
So we were talking about Enki's other incarnations throughout the ages. What do we have here?
That's Marduk, the son of Enki. Let's see what we got going on here.
Weird bulge on the back of his head. Is that his skull?
It looks like an animal, but I can't tell what kind or what it symbolized. But
like a little bunny or something, dude.
Yeah. Like I could see the eyes and the mouth and the ear. Almost like a duck. I don't know.
Dude, were those his tattoos? Dude, I think he was tatted up. I asked AI to make me this one picture of Marduk. Maybe I'll pull it up in a little bit. And he has tattoos all over him.
Wow.
Maybe AI knows something that we don't, you know?
It might.
I don't know, bro. This is Marduk,
Yep.
Enki's oldest son.
Yep.
Marduk was his Babylonian name. Yeah, in Sumer, he was known as Merodach or Amar Utu, which translates to solar calf.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, you got Utu Shamash, who was the solar deity. Well, his name, I think Utu is his Sumerian name. Shamash may be his Akkadian name or his Babylonian name. I think his Babylonian name. Yeah. So yeah, it has to do with sun worship, solar deities. His Assyrian and Akkadian name was Asar Luhi, Asar, who is a son of his, right? And that's Osiris. That's going to be an episode in its own. Asar Luhi, or Namshub, the god of incantations.
Mm.
His Hebrew name was Bel, Bel, the god of thunderstorms. His Canaanite name was Baal Zebul, later known as Beelzebub, the Lord of the High Place, or the Lord of the Flies. In Egypt, he was known as Amun-Ra, the sun god, the god of fertility and creation. I've probably dived the deepest into Marduk. That didn't sound good. Into who he was and into his various incarnations. I also relate him to Azazel in the book of Enoch, because Azazel was the scapegoat and he was bound in sin, just like Marduk was bound inside the pyramid.
That checks out.
Yeah, man. And when you put Azazel next to Semyaza, that's Shamgaz from Sumerian text. That's his butt buddy. That's his best friend.
Yeah, that has to be them.
And then you have Samael and Lilith, and that's going to be a great episode, man.
I added 2 photos of Ptah also.
Oh, okay. Well, here, we'll come back to Marduk, guys. Okay, so Ptah, so Egyptian god of architects and craftsmen. Yeah, the artful fashioner. Ptah was an important deity in ancient Egypt, credited with creating the world, protecting the royal family, and listening to prayers. He was a symbol of creation. That explains it in itself right there, man. And as a creator deity, he was a maker of all living things in the universe. He was associated with fine metalworking craftsmanship. Ptah symbolized divine rule and was closely linked to the royal family. Ptah was often depicted with 3 symbols: the Was scepter, the Ankh, and the Djed pillar, which represent Ptah's creativity, power, and stability. Huh. The Djed, like Jedi. Oh, dude.
Exactly.
Bro. Wasn't Osiris like a Jedi too?
Man, that's where George Lucas got it all from the ancient.
I know, dude. The Jedis were green, and there we go again with Yoda, guys. George Lucas was channeling Enki.
He might have been, man.
Dude, years ago, I was listening to Coast to Coast, and it was George Norrie. May have been Richard Serrett. But this guy was on there talking about how he had been encountering this Christ figure deity on Mount Shasta. And automatically I'm like, all right, bro, you're on Mount Shasta. That's probably not Christ. And then he later on says, like, I later figured out what Christ, it was Enki. It looked a lot like how I thought Christ would look. I'm just like, because this is like maybe a year after I got into the Anunnaki, dude.
Yeah.
So, and I'm fresh on it. I'm not as well versed as I am now, not nearly as well versed, and not at all into the esoteric and occult. This had to have been back in like 2016, 2017. Guy on Coast to Coast saw Enki, and then he goes, Enki is Lucifer, guys. Sorry, I know no one wants to hear that, but it's the truth. And when I found out that Lucifer just meant the morning star, another name for Venus, that I was like, man, take that with a grain of salt, what he said. But at the same time, he did encounter Enki, maybe, or another fallen angel on Mount Shasta. But that was a video that stood out to me that I saved in my watch later. You know?
Yeah.
What's he have in his hand right there? Is he holding the snake?
It looks like another, like the same instrument described in the last photo, like the rod.
Dude.
I find the difference so fascinating. Like here, there's no beard, there's no long hair, there's no jewelry. It's more human.
Yeah, those similarities that you find, and you can start linking other deities together, man. It's part of the fun, you know?
Yeah.
I really want to do like a Sons of Marduk episode.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, a lot of them end up just like dying. Yeah. And we'll talk more on the next episode about when Marduk and Enki go to the moon and what they talk about. That's at Shar 80, because on the 93rd Shar is when Adapa and Titi were created.
So it looks like Adamu has potentially been alive for 32 Shars before Anu comes and says, you're the human king of Earth.
Okay.
But then he only lives 13 more Shars. So
I did want to go back to Osiris for a second. His name originating from that word Orion and Sirius.
Yeah.
Think about that.
That's the unification name.
Oh, Sirius. Orion. Oh, man. That I knew it stemmed from Sirius.
Yeah.
I just blew my own mind. But I had fun.
Likewise.
I had fun, man. I always have fun talking to you, brother.
Yeah, I got kickboxing in 7 hours. Gotta make sure that I gotta train for a lalu.
All right, guys. So this was fun. Part 2. We'll have a part 3 next, and then we'll do we'll either start with their sons or we'll do an episode on Ninmah. I kind of want to knock the males out before the females, just because their stories of war and violent acts and debauchery are way more exciting. Well, when you get into Ishtar, she's a crazy bitch. So
The crazy.
yeah, she's a wild one, dude. Y'all go buy Adrian's book, Pantheon 1, The Golden Veins. Him and Mr. Benson C. Saili. I said it right. There we go.
Man.
Yeah, Adrian has it looking better right there, but this book is awesome. He's in the process of writing 5 more, and so we'll be able to do episodes on these as well. I really want to go through this and pick out some stuff that you don't find anywhere else so we can kind of share it with people and let them know like why this book is so important and how it makes such a big difference, you know?
Thank you, man.
Yeah, man, for sure. Y'all go follow Adrian on Instagram. He has a YouTube. I think he has a Twitter too, but he doesn't use it, I don't think.
I kind of clean it out, make sure I didn't tweet anything that would get me canceled in the last 10 years.
I have. So you're not alone, man. Adrian West HQ. Y'all can buy Pantheon 1, The Golden Veins on Amazon.com. I am on Instagram at GREYPILLED_podcast. I'm on Twitter at GREYPILLEDPod. I'm on BitChute, just GREYPILLED. And then I'm on Rumble, Spotify, and YouTube, Greypilledpodcast. Also, y'all go watch our other Pantheon projects. Y'all go watch my sound sciences that I do with Thomas, the Paranoid American. Y'all go to paranoidamerican.com and buy up all the awesome conspiracy and occult merch that Thomas puts out, from comic books to sticker sheets to T-shirts to play sets, toys, to coloring books, man. I mean, he does it all. And go check out his podcast, the Paranoid American Podcast, and the Reality Czars Podcast at Reality Czars Pod. Also, go to oddfellowsbrand.com, support my boy Cody, and go to Organite.com and support my boy Isaac. And that's Oregon, like the state, -ITE. But yeah, all these guys are good friends of mine. So y'all go support them. And yeah, Adrian, you got anything else you want to say, brother?
Thanks for having me. Thanks everyone for listening. Keep fighting the good fight and searching for the answers.
Yes, sir. And since you mentioned Kubrick, I'm going to ride us out of here with a special outro from my buddy Thomas, the Paranoid American. Y'all go watch Schizo News Network every Saturday night live on the Reality Czars and Grey Pilled X and the Reality Czars Rumble. Yeah.
And if you're bored, check out Stanley Kubrick's greatest film ever, The Moon Landing.
Yeah, dude. All right, guys. Well, y'all stay gray-pilled. We will see y'all next time.
Peace out.
All right, man. Later, guys.
Kubrick directing the moon landing, baby. Oh, yeah.
The fake moon landing playset comes with a movie director, camera, fake moon rocks, and 2 astronauts. The Paranoid American playsets, collect them all. New from paranoidamerican.com.
Disclaimer. These are custom art creations and not toys meant for wimpy little new world order babies. Don't eat the art. Don't sue the artist. For more details, visit paranoidamerican.com.
Check it out at paranoidamerican.com.
Gather round, all you mystery seekers. We're diving deep into the dark, exploring realms beyond what's known, where the secrets of the shadows leave their mark. Come take a ride on the Greypilled Express, where esoteric knowledge is our guest. From conspiracies to cryptids, we unveil the veil, mysticism and the occult, our forbidden tale. Join us on this journey to uncover the